Hello, Fantasy Faithfuls, and welcome to this week's live stream. Let's get it out on Twitter that we're live right there. Welcome. So happy to be back doing this again. I hope the sound is a little bit better this week, so please let me know in the chat if I need to turn up the sound a little bit more. I know it was low last week, so I want to make sure that it's better for this one. As I said last week, I will do every Monday up until the season starts, and after that we're going into the regular season schedule, which shows on Sundays as usual. I'm also working on a new show concept that might be airing on Wednesdays during the season, but we're still in early stages with that one. But I will keep you updated. I hope to have some more news in the next 2-3 weeks surrounding this, and it's going to be a live show as well, more of a podcast oriented thing, or live show. It might not be live, but hopefully it's going to be live, because then we can chat with everybody who joins in during the season. I know it's a little slower during the off season in the chat, but I am 100% cool with that. Just happy to be back doing this. As I said last week, and I've said before, on requests from a few subscribers last year, I've now started a Patreon page. I appreciate all the support from you just by reading and watching my content. But if you want some more exclusive content, check it out and help me create even more. Again, thank you so much for being part of the Fantasy Faithfuls and CSD Fantasy as a whole. The link to the Patreon page is down below in the description. So today the draft guide continues with part 2 out of 4. You can check out part 1 regarding CSD drafting in case you haven't done so. It is up and running on demand here on the channel. A quick disclaimer before we get in. It is important not to follow one of these parts blindly, but you have to put them in relation to each other and how your draft is developing. But let's see if we have any questions before going into today's topic, which you see on the screen as value drafting. No chat comments so far, so let's dig in. Today, part 2, value pick drafting, which is tied to the value series on csdfantasy.com right now, where most valuable wide receivers and running backs are up. You can read that content on the site right now. But what I mean by that is that certain players have more value at a certain time in the draft. Saquon Barkley would, of course, be even more valuable than what he is now if it went in the second round. He is still extremely valuable as your number 1 overall pick. Of course, with Zeke, all this things going on with Zeke, I bumped up Saquon to be my number 1 guy that I want in draft. If I can get the first pick overall, I want Saquon Barkley. I want Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara more than before, as Zeke has gone bumped down. But back to Saquon, if you can get him in the second round, I know you can't, but if you could, his value will be crazy compared to him as your number 1 overall pick. It's just relative like that. So this is heavily tied to the CSD drafting from last week, as I used the floor and ceiling as a starting point, finding out who has more value in each round. My plan is to get the most valuable player at each position, or the position I'm picking for in that round. I don't want to reach for anyone, as I might can get more value at another position in that round. So as an example, if we're looking at running backs in round 7, 8, and 9, the most valuable pick you can make here, according to my rankings and the value pick series on csdfantasy.com, with their current ADP, is Latavius Murray, Jordan Howard, and LaShawn McCoy in 7, 8, and 9. Not players that have high rankings on my list, but practically the only backs that are being drafted in these rounds. I see that I have the wrong information up on the screen right now, so let's get there we go. You see Saquon Barkley is the most valuable player you can get in round 1, and what I'm talking about is round 7, 8, and 9. That's up on your screen right there. And so, as I was saying, Latavius Murray, Jordan Howard, and LaShawn McCoy, not players that have high rankings on my list, but practically the only backs that are being drafted in these rounds. So should I draft another back that I value higher, but has an ADP in the 12th round, or what is the course of action if we arrive at this moment? So based on my value pick drafting, what we're talking about today, you should not do that. You should look to other positions and assume that your guy that you value higher than LeSean McCoy will still be there in rounds 11 and 12. So you're not reaching too far. His ADP is 12th. You can get him in the 11th or 12th. You don't want to go in the 9th for him. I'd much rather go Dante Pettis, who I have ranked much higher in the 7th round. Than get Jordan Howard, who I have no interest in whatsoever in 2019. So let's say I can get Pettis in round 8 instead of Howard, even though I was looking at a running back. The value is so much higher with drafting Pettis and getting another running back later on in the draft that I value Howard higher than Howard. Higher. So this was the graphic that I wanted to get up for this comment. So for why I don't want Jordan Howard, you can check out the Jordan Howard and the Philadelphia Eagles scheme fit video here on the channel, where I talk more on why he doesn't fit with the Eagles and what they do in the running game at all. But moving on, let's check the channel and get me some water, because I got on a little rambling right there. Excuse me. But what I'm talking about here can be applied to any round and to any position. The gap between quarterback, for instance, in rounds 9 to 15 is negligible. But who would you rather have, Emmanuel Sanders or Kenny Stills going into 2019? And that is what I'm trying to preach in this episode. When you are drafting, think about the value you're missing at another position when getting your guy, and be knowledgeable about ADP. ADP is not a clear-cut science that a guy will 100% go in a certain round, but it will give you an indication of when he's going in most drafts. So like I said, I value Dante Pettis much higher than the 7th round, but if I think I can get him there, I'd rather wait and take my chances than spend a 5th on him, as I might be able to pick up a guy that I also value highly that has a 5th round ADP. So I can get the 5th and the 7th round ADP with two guys that I have valued in the 5th just because of their ADP. So that's kind of value picking in a nutshell. Knowing the ADP and knowing what other people value them compared to what I value them. Pettis is much higher for me than he is for a lot of other guys. Hence, he goes in the 7th. While Jordan Howard is a little higher valued amongst a lot of other fantasy guys and a lot of other people out there. I know he's been a bell cow-ish for the Bears, and now going to Eagles, who's having kind of a mix and match thing going on. I don't think he's going to be that successful. So the 9th is a little high for me. If he falls to the 11th, I'm more cool with that. But if I don't reach for my guy, going back to this 7th and 5th round example with Pettis, if I don't reach for Pettis here in the 5th, assuming we're there, I can go with Cooper Kupp, who has a 5th round ADP, and I can possibly end up with both of them, because I have Kupp as a 5th round and Pettis as a 5th round, but one of them is much more expensive in general. But it's less likely that I end up with both of them if I go Pettis in the 5th and hope Kupp falls. So if I'm trying to get both, I have to go Kupp first, even that I have Pettis a little bit higher for this exercise than Kupp. It's all about taking calculated risks and trying to get as much value out of every pick. So even though I value Pettis higher, I will wait for him just to get Kupp, who I know never will be there in the 7th round. I hope this makes a lot of sense. I wish I had a little bit more graphics for this, but you can also go back to cstfantasy.com and check the value picks and all the players I have right there, so you can see who's the most valuable guy in each round. But getting back to it, of course you should stay as flexible as possible during your draft. You only reached in one over the last 3. I've only reached in one draft in the last 3 years, and that was sort of a test, and that was my worst team ever. I only went with guys that I wanted for my team and ended up losing really hard. It was a great lesson for me to trust myself and the process, not to go with who I felt was going to be good, and let the numbers guide me in the right direction. It won't always be right, and you might miss a breakout rookie, but you will be right so many more times by sheer volume that your team will be better. So lastly, let's talk about some sleepers that have great value late in your draft. I'll talk on the website about Randall Cobb, Zay Jones, and Jamison Crowder. These three all go late and have some great numbers to back up that they should go earlier. You don't have to target any of them as they go in round 17 and up in 12-team leagues. This should give you an opportunity to get one or two on your team and enjoy value above what you pay for them. They won't be week in and week out studs, but they will have plenty of chances to give you startable weeks as wide receiver 2. And at that price, that is pretty much all you can ask for. You shouldn't ask that your 17th round pick will be a wide receiver 1 week in and week out, but that's what you should expect for him. So those three have value above what you're paying for them, and that's all what I'm trying to do here. I look at their ADP comparison to where I have them ranked, but just because I have them ranked, if we do a live or a real example from the drafts, let's think of somebody like Josh Rosen, for instance, who not many teams ranked extremely high, but all of a sudden the Cardinals are spending a first-round pick on him. Just because they valued him higher doesn't mean you have to draft him in that place to get him. You probably could have waited longer in the draft and still got Josh Rosen, but instead you spent a high pick on him. If I can wait, I'm not going to spend a 12th round pick on Randall Cobb if I can get him in the 19th, and he's not that valuable to me that I have to have him on my team. There's plenty of guys that have value, but he's one of them that I can take a flyer on late. And that was the same that I was trying to say with Kupp and Pettis. I love Pettis, but I'm not going to reach for him just because I like him. I'm not going to overpay to get my guy. I don't want to reach. I've done that. It did not end too well. So that's value picking in a nutshell. I know I went on a couple of rants today where I just spiraled off. I'm still getting into the thick of things with having these live shows. Trying to be as natural as possible, speaking right into the camera. It's easier during the season when we're doing just questions and answers, just bam, bam, bam. But I'm happy to be back, and next week, well, I should say on Thursday, I will be looking at the most valuable quarterbacks on CSDFantasy.com. And this weekend, I will release a new video here on YouTube. I'm bringing back the head-to-head series for 2019, and I will put Derrick Henry against Marlon Mack. Lastly, for the next couple of weeks, I will be rolling out video content every day, so be sure to check the channel for the scheduled content. 5 premieres are already on their way this week with some really interesting players. You can check them out here on the channel. And remember, check out our Patreon page with a link below. There is exclusive content to be had and shoutouts after each YouTube video. Thank you so much for joining me here today, and I hope to see you again next week, 7 p.m. Eastern Time.